business of contracting is changing. Technology is becoming a member of the contracting workforce, taking over process-oriented, repetitive, and lower-value tasks from humans. Robotic process automation is an example of artificial intelligence application, everywhere from contract closeout at HHS to finding unpaid invoices at GSA, to background reviews of contractor performance at IRS. We are at a crossroads and must lead the way.
Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Craig Conrad, Chief Executive Officer at the National Contract Management Association. When the National Organization for Contract Management says that drastic change is coming to the profession within 5 years, that the risk-averse culture has got to go, and that innovation, speed, and agility are the goals, we had better sit up and pay attention. The National Contract Management Association said all that and much more in a recent white paper titled Preparing for the Future of Contracting. And NCMA CEO Craig Conrad is here with me to give us the details on this bold and daring new future vision. Welcome, Craig.
Well, thanks, John. And yes, our white paper is a strong statement, and even to some startling, especially considering it came out of interviews with government contracting and procurement leaders. They were alarmed about the future, and while at the same time determined to meet it head on, we found a pretty good finding out of all this is that they are already preparing. Before I give you their key findings and takeaways, let me take a minute to tell you about NCMA and what we do. We are a nonprofit organization of approximately 20,000 acquisition, procurement, and contract management professionals. We cover both government and the commercial sector. We are the only ANSI-approved certifying body for contract management professionals. And we serve and inform our profession and other acquisition communities with education, standards, and really opportunities to have an open exchange of ideas. Every year we hold a couple national events. This year, given the COVID crisis, we turned our first one into a complete virtual event that had roughly 1,000 folks come together on subcontract management. We also have a full catalog of online courses and webinars. We are the standard setter, as I said, for contract management. So we have the contract management standard. That is the base of the contract management body of knowledge. One needs to really master that to obtain our leading certifications. So we are the key organization for professionals in contract management. We strive to be their voice and support and ultimately advocate on their behalf. That's why we embarked last year on this study to certainly get their pulse, but also understand what the future is going to look like for them or as they perceive it in the volatile times ahead. We asked them how the profession will evolve in terms of technology, the workforce, the skills contract managers need, and essentially how the contract manager will deliver value in a very unfamiliar environment.
Craig, are there 3 certification levels with your organization? I think there are, aren't there?
We do. We have the Certified Professional Contract Manager, which is the CPCM, the Certified Federal Contract Manager, the CFCM, and our last one, the Certified Commercial Contract Manager, which is also known as the CCCM.
Well, you must have some power to get 1,000 people together. Everyone sit in their homes. You should brag about that, shouldn't you?
We were pleased. We were definitely pleased.
You know, Craig, I've spoken to you in the past, and I've heard you use words like startling and bold and volatile and alarmed. I mean, alarmed? That's usually not the vocabulary we associate with contracting. I mean, what's going on here? What's changed?
In a word, John, it's urgency. It's the urgency to handle the speed of technology changes, the rise of near-peer adversaries such as China and Russia, the expectations of a tech-savvy population, and the rapid emergence of wickedly complex and worldwide crises such as the ones we're going through now. Because the contract management profession is responsible for equipping our military and acquiring government's technology, ultimately supplying our first responders to serve in natural and man-made disasters, and much, much more, that we must evolve as the world evolves. That's what makes this so critical and bold. And as the world is throwing complicated problems at us faster and more frequently than ever, so our senior procurement leaders increase their concern. They want the profession to become solution drivers, not just buyers and rule enforcers. They want contracting professionals to grow and change their capabilities more quickly, both to adapt and acquire technology, But also they expect those teams to become more strategic and less tactical in their approach. One thing that stood out strongly in retrospect is that the future skills identified by these leaders are in fact the very skills that are required to lead in crises such as COVID-19. Those things are mission focus, creative problem solving, leadership at all levels, innovation, business acumen, data analysis, and there's so many more. Market, supplier, and supply chain intelligence, finally, I think is something that one would argue is really valuable in times of crises.
You use the phrase near peer adversary. That's normally used over at the DoD, especially in the Air Force over there. And you're talking about strategy and tactics. You're approaching this almost like the coming battle, aren't you?
Well, indeed, and I would argue that it's not just the DoD that has to be concerned about adversaries. When you look across not just the intelligence community either, when you look across our civilian agencies, they are getting poked at and attacked all the time as well. This is not just an attack on our DoD infrastructure, it's attack on us as Americans.
Some people say that from January to March, internet traffic has gone up by 25%. What they're not telling you is that the number of attacks have gone up by 25% as well. So this is a difficult situation to be worried about contracting and being vulnerable and not vulnerable. So you really have to be more strategic than ever in the past.
Indeed, indeed.
My guest today is Craig Conrad, Chief Executive Officer at the National Contract Management Association. I'm your moderator, John Gilroy, on the discussion, Preparing for the Future of Contracting, sponsored by NCMA on Federal News Network.